Discover the incredible moment my daughter sold our $3 million ranch, leaving me only $16,000 to survive. It was a typical morning in Pine Grove when Sarah dropped the bombshell. I stood there, my heart racing, staring at her in disbelief. The sun poured through the barn's wooden slats, illuminating dust particles dancing in the air. But the warm light couldn't thaw the chill that gripped my chest. She sold our family ranch for $3 million. My mind blurred with a whirl of emotions: betrayal, confusion, and a nagging sense of abandonment. How could she do this to us, to the place that had watched her grow? Every inch of this land told our story. Each sunrise on the ranch marked a new day of hard work, laughter, and dreams woven together through the years. But all that faded into silence now, leaving only echoes of what used to be. I loved this ranch like I loved my own blood. It was more than a piece of land, it was the heart of our legacy. But now Sarah, my brilliant daughter, had traded it for a shot at the big city and a life I never understood. Standing alone in the empty barn, I looked at the faded childhood drawings on the walls. The barn once buzzed with her laughter, her pony, and the promise of tomorrow. I felt tears prick my eyes. With only $16,000 in the bank, I faced a future that felt more uncertain than any battlefield I had ever known. It was a cruel twist of fate, a punch to the gut, a reminder of the fragility of family bonds. I clutched the wooden beam, whispering a silent prayer for understanding. The news spread like wildfire through Pine Grove. Neighbors expressed their shock, their faces twisted with concern. We'd always been a resilient community, yet the weight of this betrayal hung heavily over us all. Friends offered support, lending a listening ear, but how could I explain this mix of pride and betrayal? It was both heartbreaking and heartwarming. In the shadows of financial struggle, an undercurrent of connection bloomed as those years of friendship drew us closer. As the Pine Grove Harvest Festival approached, the community offered me a chance to showcase my ranching skills. I could still represent our family legacy. It could be my moment of reckoning. I soaked up their support like sunshine, feeling hope flicker inside me among the pain. But the constant thought nagged at me: would Sarah come? How could I face her and capture my swirling emotions? On the festival day, the air was rich with laughter and music as people gathered around booths decorated in vibrant colors. I fought against the turbulence in my chest as I prepared. My heart raced, knowing that each moment counted. Would she even recognize the depth of our history, of the soil beneath her feet? Would she see her father trying to hold on to a future that looked so different from the dreams she chased? Then, through the joyful crowd, I caught sight of her Sarah, her laughter lighting up the day like the sun. Conflict surged within me, twisting between pride in her ambition and the hollowness of her absence. Could we bridge the chasm that had formed between us? As friends approached, eager to hear tales of our ranch's glories, the air grew heavy with hope and unresolved feelings. What would this day mean for us? As the crowd gathered, the air thickened with anticipation, and I held my breath, wondering, would I find a way back to my daughter, or had ambition severed our bond for good? As I caught sight of Sarah, my heart skipped a beat. She looked radiant, dressed in a bright summer dress that danced around her like she was the sun. But behind that cheerful exterior, my emotions were a storm. Would she come over? Would we even be able to talk about the ranch? Would she remember all the years we spent there, the life lessons echoing through the fields and pastures? The warm sun did little to ease the growing knot in my stomach. I watched her interact with friends, her laughter ringing out like the chiming of a bell. It felt both beautiful and painful. Suddenly she turned and made eye contact with me, her smile faltering for just a moment. I could feel the weight of the world between us, a canyon carved from decisions and intentions that I was called to the stage to showcase my skills in the ranching competition. Standing under the bright lights, I felt the familiar pull of the earth beneath me. So many memories rushed in: training horses, harvesting vegetables, and fixing fences with my own hands. Every experience echoed the love I'd poured into the land. As I judged my competition, local farmers, fathers and sons, friends, I felt a rush of confidence. This was what it meant to be connected to something greater, a community that relied on the shared love of the land. Just as I balanced my heart, ready to speak about our ranch, I saw Sarah again, standing at the edge of the crowd. I began speaking, my voice steady despite an undercurrent of nerves. This ranch has seen generations of hard work and laughter. I shared stories about sunrises painted in pastel hues, the joyous chaos of family gatherings, and the bonds built over humble, shared meals. I heard their murmurs of approval, but my gaze kept drifting back to Sarah. What would she think? That moment of vulnerability, sharing the essence of our family history, felt empowering yet terrifying. I ended with a simple truth: this place is not just soil and grass, it is the spirit that binds us. It's all we have. The crowd erupted in applause, an affirmation of the ties that bind us to our roots. I felt light, but it didn't last long. As the applause faded, Sarah took a hesitant step toward me. My heart raced. Would she reconcile this moment with the decisions of her past? I could see questions rolling in her eyes, hurt and fear battling with love and confusion. "Dad," she began, her voice barely a whisper above the fading crowd noise, "can we talk?" The air thickened around us. I had so many things I wanted to say, but I realized I must first listen. I wanted to know what drove her to this decision. I wanted to understand her. Gathering my thoughts, I nodded slowly, feeling the weight of the moment that we stepped to a quiet corner of the festival, away from the hustle, shadows hugging us in an intimate space. It was just us now, the past mingling with the present. The festival continued to hum around us, but at that moment, nothing else mattered. "Why did you really sell it?" I asked, my voice gentle but searching. She hesitated, looking out at the vibrant chaos. What was it going to take to unravel the tangle of emotions between us? Just as I felt I might finally understand her perspective, a loud crash interrupted our fragile bubble. A fallen display from a nearby booth sent a shockwave through the crowd that I turned to see what had happened, only to feel her withdraw beside me. The moment felt shattered. Would we lose this opportunity to reconnect, to bridge the distance that had grown between us? My heart pounded, anxiety coursing through me. But this wasn't just about a conversation anymore, it was about rebuilding our relationship. "Sarah." My voice called out, but she was already blending back into the throng of festival goers. The space between us felt vast once again. Would I be left only with echoes of what could have been? Or could I find a way to reclaim what we had lost? The festival continued around me, but my focus remained on her retreating form. I had to find her again, to understand, to heal. And deep down, I hoped she would want that too. I pushed through the crowd, my heart pounding. Each step felt heavier, the laughter and chatter of the festival fading into a blur. Panic threatened to steal my breath. Would I lose Sarah again? The memories of our time at the ranch poured back into my mind: quiet mornings tending to the animals, evenings spent with her around the fire, sharing dreams and stories under a blanket of stars. How had it come to this? "Excuse me, sorry," I said, maneuvering around families with kids on their shoulders and couples holding hands. The festival was a swirl of colors, but the bright shades did little to mask my anxiety. Every corner I turned brought a flicker of hope that I would catch a glimpse of her again. I needed to show her that the ranch meant more than just property, it was our legacy, a part of who we were. As I scanned faces, I spotted her near the food stalls. She stood apart from the others, contemplating something in her hands. It was a handmade bracelet, perhaps a keepsake. I approached cautiously, mindful of her space. "Sarah?" My voice tried to break through her thoughts. She turned slowly, surprise mixed with uncertainty dancing in her eyes. The world around us seemed to fade, a moment entirely ours. "Dad, she began, but faltered. I could see she was steeling herself, preparing for a conversation that would unravel everything we had avoided saying for so long. "Can we sit?" I gestured toward a nearby bench. Without waiting for an answer, I took a seat, giving her a moment to collect her thoughts. She joined me, still clutching the bracelet as if it were a lifeline. "Look, I know things have been hard since." I hesitated, not wanting to dredge up the pain of the sale. "Since the ranch changed hands," I finally said. "I just want to understand why." She looked down at her hands, the vibrant colors of the festival contrasting sharply with the hush of our shared experience. It wasn't just the ranch, Dad. It was everything, the expectations, the pressure. Her voice trembled. I felt trapped. Selling it felt like the only way to take control of my life. Control? But you're my daughter. I want to support you, not lose you, I replied, struggling with a mix of frustration and compassion. I reached for her hand, the gesture both hopeful and hesitant. That's the thing, Dad. While I was there, I felt like I was living your dreams. I never got a chance to find my own. She finally met my gaze, and I could see the depth of her struggle, an ocean of choice and sorrow. For a moment, silence surrounded us. It was heavy but necessary, a moment of shared grief for what had been lost. I wish I had seen that, I admitted softly. I always thought keeping the ranch was the best thing for us, for our family. You thought wrong. Her words were harsh, yet I felt the truth in them. I needed to learn to listen, to choose her feelings over my own despair. I'm sorry if I pushed you away, I replied, my voice almost breaking. You mean everything to me. I want to help you find your dreams, not hold on to the past. Her expression softened, and I sensed a flicker of hope between us. It's so complicated. I know. But do you think we can work through it together? Find a new way for both of us? I held my breath, waiting for her response. After a long pause, she nodded slowly, a tentative smile breaking through. Maybe, but it's going to take time. I need you to understand how I feel, even when it hurts. Her words felt like the beginning of healing, but there was still so much left unsaid. Would we be able to bridge the distance fully? Could we truly redefine our relationship? Just as I opened my mouth to speak, a loud cheer erupted from the crowd, pulling our attention away. The festivities flowed on, but I knew this wasn't over. This was just the beginning. What if this conversation was the turning point we'd both been yearning for? I needed to show her that together, we could create something new from the ashes of our past. But what would it take to get there? The cheers from the festival began to blend into a dull roar as fireworks lit up the night sky. The colorful bursts drew the attention of many around us, and for a brief moment, the chaotic energy of the celebration seemed to wash over me. I stole a glance at Sarah, who was still turning the bracelet over in her hands, her expression a mix of wonder and uncertainty. Let us watch for a moment, I suggested, hoping the vibrant colors could distract her from the heavy conversation we were navigating. She nodded, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly as we looked up together. The first firework exploded with a loud bang, trailing shimmering sparks that illuminated the faces of the crowd. I could see families oohing and aahing, children giggling in delight. But even in the midst of this happiness, a sense of dread lingered in the pit of my stomach. Could our relationship really change for the better? Or was the rift too wide, the past too heavy? Dad? Sarah's voice cut through my thoughts, gently pulling me back from the edge of my worries. Do you think we can truly start fresh? I want to believe we can. I want that too, I replied earnestly, feeling some of my old confidence returning. But it won't happen overnight. We've got a lot of work ahead of us. I know. She smiled faintly. I just need you to understand my journey. It's not just about the ranch anymore. It's about me finding who I am. I want to help you figure that out, I said, my heart filling with resolve. You're not alone in this. You never have been. The next firework lit up the sky, and a thought struck me: the darkness that surrounded us didn't have to be all-consuming. Perhaps we could both find new purpose in our uncertain future. Why don't we do something together, like a new project? Something just for us? She looked intrigued. What do you mean? I was thinking we could start a community garden or a small farm stand. Something that not only connects us but helps others in the neighborhood. Her brow furrowed in consideration. That could be good for the community and maybe good for us. Yes. We could bond over planting seeds and watching them grow, just like we did at the ranch. I could almost see the wheels turning in her head, the spark of hope igniting again. The fireworks continued to burst overhead, but the sounds of celebration faded as our conversation deepened. It felt like we were mapping out a new path, one that would require us both to take risks and open ourselves up. I just want to show you that home is more than a place, Sarah. It's us. I think I understand, she whispered, holding out her hands, now empty of the bracelet. Let us not just talk about it. Let us really do it. Deal. I chuckled lightly, the weight of the past lifting just a little. We can come back here tomorrow and brainstorm all our ideas. Maybe we'll even come up with a name. Like the new beginning? Or maybe something with ranch in it to honor what we've lost? I laughed, nodding in agreement. Love it. And we'll make it ours. But just then, a shadow crossed Sarah's face as she gazed back at the festival crowd. What if this is just a distraction, Dad? What if it all crumbles again? The question hung in the air, heavy and real. What if? In that moment, I felt the uncertainty creep back in, snatching at our light-hearted exchanges. It hit me that no matter how much we wished for change, the past still lingered, threatening to pull us back into old patterns. Maybe we'll stumble along the way, I said carefully. But we won't do it alone. Her eyes sparkled as she said, okay. Let us promise to keep talking even when it gets hard. I reached for her hand, a pledge of my commitment to her, my daughter, my partner in this new journey. But somewhere inside, I wondered if I could truly support her dreams when my own felt so shattered. As we stood, the last firework fizzled out, and the crowd dispersed around us. The chill in the evening air reminded me of the work ahead. I squeezed her hand, knowing this was just the beginning of a long road. But what would happen once we faced the ghosts of our past? Would we find strength together, or would the weight of our history pull us apart again? The morning sun filtered into the room, bringing with it the promise of a new day. I stood by the kitchen window, watching as the world around me came to life, but my thoughts drifted back to the conversations Sarah and I had shared the night before. Our plans felt lighter somehow, buoyed by hope despite the uncertainty lingering over us. Sarah's laughter echoed in my mind, a small balm to soothe the worry lurking in my chest. I heard her footsteps coming down the hall, and I turned, wanting to capture this moment of renewed connection. Her hair fell in waves, tousled but somehow sparkly, like the fireworks of the previous night. Morning. She chirped, the smile lighting up her face. Morning, sunshine, I replied, automatically reaching to ruffle her hair. She stepped back, feigning annoyance, but I could see the laughter dancing in her eyes. What is the plan for today? She asked, her tone shifting to genuine curiosity as she leaned against the kitchen counter. That I had been thinking about it. I thought we could head to the local library and gather some information on community projects. Maybe talk to some folks who've set up gardens before. Sounds good. I want to learn how to plant all kinds of things. Tomatoes, maybe? I suggested. Definitely tomatoes. She exclaimed, her enthusiasm contagious, that we decided to grab breakfast from the diner down the road, the one with the best pancakes in town. The scent of frying bacon and freshly brewed coffee enveloped us as we walked in, and I spotted familiar faces. A couple of neighbors were seated at the counter, and their chatter blended into a symphony of small-town camaraderie. Look who it is. Mrs. Langley called, her voice wrapping around us. The dynamic duo. Morning. We both chimed, heading to the counter. Over a stack of warm pancakes drizzled with syrup, we shared small talk with our neighbors. It felt good, like the community was wrapping us in a warm embrace. Each laugh lifted the weight from my shoulders, making me believe, if only for a moment, that we could mend not just our relationship but also our place within this town. But as conversations shifted and laughter faded, the reality of our situation loomed. A ghost of our past brushed its icy fingers across my heart. I was still grappling with the fact that our home, the ranch that had seen us through so much, was no longer ours, a bittersweet subject that seemed to emerge in hushed tones between adults. Did you hear about the old Miller place? Sold for a steal. Mr. Becker interrupted, glancing at Sarah and me. His tone was casual, but beneath it, I felt the sharp pang of loss. Yeah, it sure has changed, I said, forcing a smile. How could I explain to her that selling the ranch was not just a financial loss, but also a loss of identity, a part of who we were? Right. Just goes to show nothing's guaranteed, Mrs. Langley added softly, her knowing gaze heavy with unsaid words. It can all crumble, Sarah whispered beneath her breath, her expression suddenly somber as she met my gaze. I wanted to tell her that our journey was different, that we could rebuild. But the uncertainty swelled up, squeezing my throat as the moment to offer comfort slipped away. I cleared my throat, feeling the sadness thrum between us. Sometimes things that seem lost can lead to new paths, I finally said, not entirely convinced. She nodded, uncertainty shadowing her features. After breakfast, we left the diner and walked toward the library, the weight of our past mingling with the morning breeze. As we turned the corner, I took a deep breath, desperate for clarity. Hey, how about we make a list of things we need for the garden? I suggested, trying to lighten the mood. Good idea. Her voice was laced with cautious hope. But inside, I doubted if we could rise from the ashes of our past failures, or if we would be forever haunted by them. What if our dreams for a community garden collided with the reality of our lives? Would we have the strength to face whatever came next, or would it all slip through our fingers like sand? The library loomed ahead, its steep roof and brick facade a familiar sight. I felt a mix of dread and excitement wash over me, each step forward echoing the uncertainty I couldn't shake. The smell of old paper greeted us as we pushed open the heavy doors. It was the kind of place that felt quiet yet full of potential, a refuge for dreamers. Wow, look at all the books! Sarah exclaimed, her eyes wide as she darted toward the children's section. I couldn't help but smile. Her enthusiasm reminded me that there was still light in our world, even if it felt dimmed by everything we had lost. After a few minutes of browsing, we found a table tucked away in a corner, and I spread out a blank sheet of paper. Okay, let us brainstorm, I said, voice steady, trying to mask the butterflies in my stomach. What do we want to grow? Tomatoes, obviously. She grinned, jotting them down. And strawberries, I added, recalling her insistence on them last summer. With each idea, my heart swelled. We were building something together, even if it was just a list for now. As we wrote, a mother and her little boy sat nearby, absorbed in their own world of books. The boy, perhaps 4, giggled as he flipped through colorful pages about monsters. His laughter seemed to ricochet through the somber atmosphere I had been carrying. Isn't it funny how kids just find joy in little things? I mused aloud. Yeah, Sarah sighed, her brow furrowing slightly. Sometimes I wish it was that easy for us. It hit me she was right. The little things felt overshadowed by our burdens. A heaviness crept back, and I tried to push it aside, reminding myself how much I wanted this garden to be our new beginning. How about we plant sunflowers? They always make me smile, I suggested, forcing my own smile to match hers. Sunflowers it is. She cheered, and the moment felt like a victory. But as she beamed, my gaze drifted to a bulletin board nearby, covered in flyers about community events and fundraisers. My heart sank as I read one, help restore the Morrow Ranch, join our fundraiser. Dad? Sarah interrupted my thoughts, her voice small. I snapped back to reality, swallowing hard. Yeah? Sorry, what did you say? I was just asking how we can get the community involved in the garden. You know, to help with planting and stuff. The hope in her eyes sparked something in me. That's a great idea. We can put an ad on the community board, maybe hold a little meeting to gather volunteers. As we chatted, the clouds of doubt began to part. Each word, each sentence felt like laying the groundwork for a new purpose. Time slipped by, and before long, we gathered our notes and decided to take a stroll through the local park. The sun filtered through the branches, casting playful shadows on the path. Look at those kids playing, Sarah said, pointing at a group of children running towards the swings. I watched their carefree laughter, feeling a twinge of longing. You really think we can make this garden happen, Dad? She asked suddenly, her face serious. I hesitated. The weight of my past threatened to cloud my answer, but I couldn't let fear dim her spark. Yes, I think we can, I finally said. As long as we believe in it together. For a moment, we stood there, the sound of laughter fading into the background. Yet, beneath the promise of possibility lay a nagging worry. Could we gather enough support from the community? Would it be enough to change our lives, to give us a place to belong again? As we walked back home, my thoughts raced. The sun sank lower in the sky, casting a golden glow. I felt the weight of a choice ahead, one that might determine not just our future but how we rebuild our identity, one garden at a time. What if this garden really could become a beacon of hope for not just us but the entire town? Would they gather around our dreams, or would they simply carry on as if nothing had changed? The next morning was heavy with anticipation. I woke up early, the sun barely peeking through the curtains. Sarah was still asleep, her quiet breaths a soothing backdrop. Despite the stillness, my mind buzzed with the idea of our garden, how it could bring us closer to the community. I lay there for a moment, absorbing the hope that had flared within me. After breakfast, I filled a small backpack with paper, pens, and some snacks. Ready for an adventure? I asked, nudging Sarah awake. She stretched, her eyes lighting up with curiosity. Where are we going? She asked, a hint of excitement creeping into her voice. To gather ideas for our community meeting. We'll go around, talk to people, see who wants to help, I replied, my own enthusiasm growing. Once outside, the warmth of the sun enveloped us. We walked through our neighborhood, greeting neighbors and smiling at passers-by. Each conversation felt like a thread weaving us back into the fabric of the community. At the park, we ran into Mr. Thompson, the local handyman. He was fixing a swing set, his hands dusty but his spirit vibrant. Hey there. What's got you two so excited? He called out, wiping his brow. We're starting a community garden. Sarah chimed in, her energy infectious. Oh. A garden, you say? Now that sounds like a great idea. How can I help? Mr. Thompson grinned. Could you share some tools and maybe help us with the setup? I asked, surprised by how quickly my initial worries melted away. Absolutely. I have a shed full of old tools. Just mark a day, and I'll bring them over. We thanked him, our hearts racing with renewed joy. With every person we spoke to, my doubts faded. A few more folks showed interest, adding their names to our growing list of supporters. By mid-afternoon, we found ourselves standing in front of the old diner, a local gathering spot. The bright red signs and the smell of fresh coffee wafting out made it hard to resist. Want to grab a drink before we head home? Sarah held up a finger, distracted by a group of teenagers laughing at a nearby table. What if we ask them? That's a great idea, I exclaimed. We approached the teenagers, who looked up with surprise. Hey there. We're starting a community garden and we'd love some help from your crew, I said, my voice steady. They exchanged glances, skepticism dancing in the air. Gardening? Really? Isn't that for, like, old folks? One of them shot back playfully. It's about bringing the community together, Sarah jumped in, her confidence shining. And it's going to be fun. Plus, we could use some strong hands to help dig. A chuckle erupted from them, and slowly, they started nodding. All right, we'll help. Just tell us when. Sarah beamed, and I felt that familiar warmth spread through my chest. Later that evening, back at home, the exhilaration began to settle into exhaustion. We sprawled on the living room couch, a pile of notes beside us. Do you think we did good today? She asked, her eyes drifting sleepily. Absolutely. Tomorrow, we'll put up flyers and get the word out even more, I replied softly. As I tucked her in, I saw a flicker of doubt cross her face. But what if no one comes, Dad? What if they forget? I wanted to reassure her, to say that everything would be all right, but the truth hovered like a shadow. We'll just keep going, I said finally, and we'll believe in it together, remember? Her smile returned, but the weight of uncertainty lingered. What if our zeal wasn't enough? What if the community's apathy buried our dream before it even had a chance to bloom? As I turned off the light and closed the door, the weight of hope felt heavy on my chest. Tomorrow was another day, and our garden was still just a seed in the ground. Would it ever bloom, or wither before it had a chance? The next morning, I woke up to the sound of Sarah humming softly in the kitchen. As I stretched and blinked away the remnants of sleep, I could smell the aroma of pancakes drifting towards me, comforting and warm. I smiled, buoyed by the promise of the day ahead. Today was the day we would put up flyers about the community garden. After breakfast, we grabbed sheets of colorful paper and started crafting eye-catching designs. Sarah's laughter filled the room as she doodled flowers and vegetables around the border. I felt a surge of pride watching her creativity unfold. Once our flyers were ready, we set out again. The sun was bright, casting a golden glow that warmed our skin and ignited our spirits. We walked down Main Street, stopping at shops, cafes, and the community center, hanging our flyers in every visible spot. Each time I posted one, I imagined it catching someone's interest, sparking curiosity, and maybe even excitement. We should stop by the library. Maybe we can put some up there too, Sarah suggested, her eyes sparkling. The library was one of the busiest places in town, filled with people of all ages gathering for events and activities. As we approached the building, I felt the familiar buzz of optimism humming in my veins. We walked inside, the cool air refreshing after the heat of the day. We found Mrs. Jenkins, the librarian, shelving books. She looked up and smiled at us. "Good morning. What brings you two in today?" "Mrs. Jenkins, we're starting a community garden, and we'd love to put up some flyers. Would that be okay?" I asked, my heart racing with excitement. "Of course. That sounds wonderful," she replied, her face lighting up. "I'd love to share that with our patrons. We need more community spirit around here." Sarah and I beamed. As we prepared to tape our flyers around the library, a group of kids from the nearby school walked in, their laughter echoing through the halls. I caught a few glances from them, and it encouraged me to be bolder. "Hey, everyone. We're starting a community garden. Anyone want to help us out?" I called out. The kids paused, intrigued. "To earn some community service hours, right?" One of them chimed in, nudging his buddy. "Exactly. It'll be fun, and we'll have free veggies," Sarah added, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "We're in," they shouted in unison before rushing to grab a flyer. I couldn't suppress my smile. Each connection felt electric, like tiny sparks igniting into a bright blaze of hope. Later that day, we stopped for sandwiches under the big oak tree in the park. "Do you think people will actually come?" Sarah asked between bites, her brow furrowed. "I believe they will," I said, squeezing her hand. "Sometimes we just have to plant those seeds, figuratively and literally." After lunch, we moved to the neighborhood bulletin board. As we pinned up our flyers, a warm breeze rustled through the leaves, carrying whispers of potential. Suddenly, I spotted Mrs. Peterson, the kind lady from 3 doors down, approaching with a curious expression. "I saw your flyers. Is it true? A community garden?" she asked, her eyes twinkling. "Yes, we want to grow fresh vegetables. Do you want to join us?" I asked eagerly. "Oh, I'd love to. I have some gardening supplies I can share," she responded, and just like that, our small project began to accumulate real momentum. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Sarah was practically bouncing with energy. "We're doing it, Dad. People are actually excited." Walking home, I felt a warmth pool in my heart. But another part of me couldn't shake the nagging worry. Was this just the initial excitement? Would the community maintain their interest? As we reached our front porch, Sarah turned to me, eyes wide with the thrill of possibility. "What if this really takes off, Dad? What if we have the biggest garden ever?" "Then we'll celebrate together," I promised, hugging her tight. But deep down, I couldn't hide the flicker of doubt. Was I prepared for success, or was I paving the way for disappointment? Tomorrow would tell us more. What awaited us beyond the horizon of our hopes? The following morning, the world outside felt different. The sun had risen with a calm authority, bathing our house in a warm glow. I couldn't help but feel a sense of urgency as I brewed coffee, my mind racing with thoughts of the day ahead. The community garden was quickly transforming from an idea into a tangible reality, but with that reality came the weight of responsibility. Sarah bounded down the stairs, her face aglow with excitement. Are we ready for today? I can't wait to see who shows up, she exclaimed, her hair bouncing as she hopped in place. Absolutely, little gardener. But we need to be prepared for everything, I said, trying to project confidence despite the gnawing worry nestled in the back of my mind. Once we finished breakfast, we gathered my old garden tools and a few extra chairs for anyone who might come. As we loaded everything into the car, Sarah chatted about all the fun she hoped to have meeting new people at the garden. They're going to love it, Dad. Just like we talked about. Her enthusiasm was contagious, and I found myself smiling. Driving to the community center, we talked about what vegetables we could grow and the different flowers she wanted to plant. The conversation flowed with ease, and I couldn't shake the feeling of possibility that hung in the air. Upon arriving, I noticed a handful of cars already parked outside, and a thrill of anticipation shot through my chest. Look, Sarah. People are here. We hopped out of the car and hurried towards the entrance, where a small crowd had begun to gather. The chatter of conversation blended with the chirping of birds, creating a harmonious blend of community spirit. As we walked inside, familiar faces greeted us. Mrs. Peterson was already there, her arms laden with gardening supplies. I thought I'd bring a few things to share with everyone, she said, her smile beaming. One by one, neighbors appeared, bringing a sense of excitement along with them. I felt the flicker of doubt start to extinguish as I watched them set up tables and dig through their supplies, fellow garden enthusiasts rallying around our cause. Let us get started, Sarah called out, her voice ringing with authority. Instinctively, she fell into the role of leader, directing newcomers to help with various tasks. I couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. She was magnificent. As we prepared to dig the first patch of soil, I turned to see a few familiar faces from town lining up to sign a sheet of paper volunteering their time. Their smiles were a testament to the community's interest and commitment. I leaned down, handing Sarah a shovel. Are you ready to dig our first hole? Let us do it, she replied, her energy unwavering. The first shovelful of dirt felt monumental. With each scoop, I saw our dream come closer to fruition. Laughter and cheers rang out as we worked together, and I realized my initial fears were giving way to something hopeful. But just as I began to lose myself in the moment, a voice called out, cutting through the laughter. Wait, what is going on here? I turned to see Tom, the town grump, eyeing us with skepticism. You think this is going to work? He scoffed, arms crossed. A heavy silence fell over the group, and I felt my heart race. Of course it will. Sarah jumped in without hesitation, her hands on her hips like a superhero. We're going to grow food for everyone and bring our community together. Isn't that worth it? Her unwavering resolve filled the air, and I could feel the support around us stir like a breeze. But a hint of doubt crept back in, clawing at my heart. Was the community ready to embrace this? Would her confidence break through the reluctance of someone like Tom? As I met Tom's gaze, I could sense that today was pivotal. The community's response could shape everything, our little garden, and perhaps, even my fears. Would they rally for us, or would Tom's skepticism dim the light we had ignited? As I stood at that fork in the road, I knew the answer would hinge on how I handled this moment. The future loomed like a shadow, and I was about to step into it. The sun hung high over Pine Grove, wrapping the community garden in warm hues of golden light. I felt the excitement in the air, a buzzing energy that seeped into my bones. Today was pivotal, not just for the garden but for Sarah and me. Each person who gathered here carried hope on their shoulders, and each shovel full of dirt turned felt like reclaiming a piece of our story. The chatter was lively. Neighbors exchanged stories as they rolled up their sleeves, digging into the earth with a shared purpose. Laughter echoed around us, but none of that happiness eclipsed the sudden chill brought by Tom's skeptical presence. His words hung in the air like a storm cloud. I glanced at Sarah, ready to step in if his doubt clouded her spirit. Hey, people care about good food. This isn't just a garden, it's about bringing our community together. She declared fiercely, standing tall in front of Tom, as if daring him to argue. Community? He countered, a scoff punctuating his words. People latch onto ideas, but when push comes to shove, they run off at the first sign of trouble. A tension buzzed between the two. I felt it in my gut, a low rumble reminding me that we had to show not just Tom but everyone that we were serious. This was bigger than just planting vegetables, it was about revitalizing our life together. Taking a deep breath, I stepped forward. Tom, I get your concerns. But this garden means something to all of us. It's a chance to grow not just food but relationships, memories, and hope. Silence enveloped the crowd for a moment, and then Mrs. Peterson chimed in, it's true. We need something like this. Our town has so much potential, and if we can grow together, we can weather anything. A few nods spread through the crowd, and the air shifted. I could see the realization washing over them that maybe, just maybe, this was worth pursuing. I guess we'll see how long they last, Tom mumbled, with a hint of appreciation beneath the skepticism. I'll bet they'll thrive, Sarah said, her voice light but confident. With a newfound rhythm, the crowd returned to digging, seedlings brimming in our minds. We worked together, side by side, sharing every moment, stories, laughter, and even the occasional mishap. Just as the sun began to dip lower in the sky, painting the earth in deep orange and purples, the first planting began. Ready? I asked Sarah as we lifted our hands together, dropping the first seeds into the soil. She grinned, her eyes twinkling with joy. Ready. She squealed, and we pressed the seeds down together, sealing our commitment to this new journey. One by one, we planted alongside eager hands emerging from the crowd. Each sapling offered a promise of connection and renewal. With every transplanting, I kept looking for signs of Tom's grumbling to turn to enthusiasm, and it wasn't long before I noticed him inching closer. Need help? He asked, his voice softer, more open than earlier. I'd love some. Sarah beamed. Encouraged by her spirit, Tom stepped forward, grabbing a shovel and jumping into action. As he worked, I could see the tension in his shoulders ease. Perhaps the garden wasn't just a sanctuary for vegetables but a place to weave back the fabric of our community. Before too long, the sun dipped below the horizon, leaving soft twilight in its wake. The air felt charged, seemed alive, pulsing with possibilities. Look at this place, I said, turning to Sarah, both of us surveying the budding garden. We're already making a difference. It feels like magic, she said softly, reflecting on the transformation. Yeah, I sighed, the weight on my heart finally lifting. Just then, Sarah stepped closer, her voice serious. Do you think we're finally getting back on track? I nodded, hope swelling. This is just the start. We'll grow together again. A sense of unity enveloped us. People lingered, some gathering for snacks, laughter merging with heartfelt chatter. I saw Tom smiling, chatting with neighbors. The fracture in our townsfolk had started to heal. As conversations spiraled into the night and the stars unveiled themselves, I figured this was the time to plant one last seed: the importance of choosing family, community, and love over anything else. I smiled at Sarah, grateful for how far we had come together, relieved to see our journey wouldn't remain twisted in the past. Let us keep doing this, I said, determination glistening in my voice. She grinned, genuine and vibrant. Yes. Together. Together. That was the heart of it all. Together, we could rise above shadows cast by loss and embrace the light of new beginnings, and so, this chapter closed, but the story kept unfolding, with every seed sown and every moment cherished. As I felt the warmth of the community around us, a new realization blossomed: hope is a garden that must be tended to, and together, We had what it takes to make it flourish. Now, at this pivotal moment, I urge you all subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next incredible stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this heartfelt ending, and don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. It is time to support the channel and everyone who believes in making a difference.